Color grading can be pretty frustrating. You spend hours tweaking your footage, dialing in the perfect look, only to come back later and think, what the hell was I doing?
So usually when I start a new project, I use an existing power grade, so just a still image from another grade. And if we compare it before and after, it looks nice and punchy. And of course it looks good, because if we compare anything to the log image, it will look better. And that's exactly the trap. Our only reference image is the log image. And this becomes our new normal. We get used to this look, and we might even start thinking that this could use some more saturation, or it could use some more contrast. And we might be way overdoing it without even noticing it. But if we compare it to something else, to this one, for example, this is another version I saved before, it might look a bit overdone or a bit just too strong. And that's why references are so important. And the first kind of reference I want to show you is the internal reference. And this is very easy. So this is the same clip as this one. I just copied it, and I will just copy over the look by middle clicking it. And now we will create a new version. So we can right click on the clip, local versions, and create a new version, or we can hit Command and Y on the keyboard and a new version is added. And if we now hit Command and N, we can switch between those two versions. So something I like to do if I'm not sure if my grade is any good, I just create a new version and then I start making changes. So let's do that right now. Let's increase the contrast. Let me adjust the white balance a bit like this. Maybe we add some saturation. And now if we switch back to version 1, we can actually see if that's just a weird change or actually an improvement. But sometimes internal versions are not quite enough, because after all, this is still our own work and our own taste. And let's say we grade at night on a very bright screen, we might grade it way too dark and not really notice it. And that's where external references come in. There are two ways to get external references, and the free way is just going to YouTube. And well, there are tons of good videos here, or you can also go to Vimeo, it doesn't matter. And you just choose any video you like. And I use a plugin, a Chrome plugin called Video Screenshot. So I get this additional button right here. And if I click it, I get the image downloaded in my folder, and I can pull the reference straight here into my stills folder. But of course, that takes a lot of time. That's why I like to use the tool frameset. This is not a sponsored video or anything, by the way. I just use frameset myself and I really like it. And I also paid for my own subscription. So frameset does the exact same thing we just did, but on a massive scale. So there are tons and tons of videos from professionals here. Well, it's stills actually from videos. And the good thing is, the people who made this are probably a lot better at their job than you and I. In most of the cases, it was a professional colorist in a controlled environment. So the levels are right, the image is balanced, and things just look right. And what you can do is you can filter for exactly the shot you want. And now you're going to get a ton of stills that you can use as a reference. Or what you can also do is just search for a similar image, and we can upload our frame from before, and it's going to come up with a lot of similar images that we can use as references. So I've already picked a couple of reference images and put them into this folder right here. And if we go back to this example and choose this reference image, by the way, to display it, you can hit Command and W on the keyboard and you get this nice wipe view, or you can also choose the split screen mode with this button right here, and you get the images side by side. And if we now switch to the previous version, you can see that this is not a good match at all. And the other version is just a much closer fit in terms of look for this kind of video. And so what we're going to do next is try and exactly match a reference. We're going to choose this image right here, and I prepared another reference image. We're going to use this one because in terms of framing and also shot, it's quite similar. We got those nice tubes in the background. And so now let's try and match that. I will hide the clips and also the gallery so we have some more space to work with. So the first thing I will do is add a couple of nodes, and let's begin with the color space transform actually. And this was shot on a Sony a7S III. So this is S-Gamut 3 Cine and S-Log 3. And we will just choose Rec 709. And that's it for this one. And let me now have a node for exposure, white balance, contrast, and one for saturation. So that's going to be it. Let's begin with exposure. Go to the HDR wheels. And this is a very accurate way to change exposure. Just select your color space and gamma. And if we now change the global exposure here, this is going to be very similar to how you change exposure in camera. Let's add some contrast. Go to the primaries, and I'm just going to lower the lift a bit, add some gain, and we can also use the contrast slider. And if we have a look at the waveform, this is also a nice guide to kind of see how the brightness is distributed on the right image. Now let's adjust the white balance. This is a very nice trick. If we change this node to linear and go to the primaries again and just put the luma mix to 0, we can now adjust the white balance very accurately with the gain wheel. And I would just recommend to reduce the key output of this single node, put it to 0.2, it doesn't really matter, just lower. And if we now make changes, we can just make bigger moves. So I'm just going to make a slight adjustment, a bit warmer. Now the right image looks much more cinematic and soft and filmic. And this one looks still a bit digital. So what I like to do to reduce this is add a node at the end, and we will add the film look creator, which is, I think, studio only, but it's really worth it. So we can choose clean slate, so it doesn't do anything yet. And what I like to do is add a vignette, some halation, because you will see this around the lights here, and it's gonna look less digital. And let's add some bloom, makes it a lot softer. And we can also add some film grain. Now let's hit Z to go back to the full view. And I would probably also add some more saturation. So let's go to the color slice tool, just a tiny bit. And by the way, a very nice trick, if you have no idea what's missing, you can just take a screenshot between those two. And let's now go to our good friend ChatGPT, and we will paste the image and ask it, how can I match? And let's see what it comes up with. And now you get this really nice analysis of, first of all, what's different, and also step-by-step list of what you can do exactly to get a closer match. And so to make those changes now, we can use a combination of the external and the internal reference. So we can now just create a new version by hitting Command and Y, select version 2 and make the changes. And then we can go back and see if it was actually an improvement. So ChatGPT says this is a bit hot. So I'm going to go to the exposure and HDR wheels and just take the lights and highlights down a bit like this. And I might also lift the shadows a tiny bit like that. Next, I will adjust the white balance a bit more. Well, it's supposed to be a bit warmer and more towards green, just a tiny bit. Okay. I'm going to make the skin a bit less pinkish and a bit more deeper orange. So we're going to go to saturation. We're going to use color slice. And let me select the skin. Actually, we need to change the view right here to do this. And we can just hit this button, or we can hit Shift and H on the keyboard to display it. And if we now move the center, we can dial in the skin tone, go back, Shift H again, and click the split screen again. And now we can adjust the hue a bit more towards orange, and we can also increase the density by a bit. All right, let's go full screen and compare version 1, version 2. And I think, yeah, I definitely prefer version 2. It is softer and definitely a closer match to the right one. And we could also tweak this a lot more, but I think you get the point, and you now have the tools to really improve your color grades.
So if you ever feel lost in the grading process, just remember, collect references, trust your taste, and also stay realistic about what fits your project. Subscribe for more filmmaking insights and color grading tips.